The year is 2023, and 2022 has been murdered. I know, pretty scary. We've been on the trail of the possible culprit, going by the name of P.O.T., which our experts believe means passage of time, which is better than what I came up with, which was simply pot. Pretty good, I know. We will now be going to the only man that can solve the case, as he puts clues together and solves the mystery of... What's that? He's going to talk about movies. How helpful. Well, without further ado...
Just Another Reviewer presents the top 10 movies of 2022!
What up?
Hi guys, it's been a while. Before I become a disembodied voice for the rest of the video, or at least the majority of it, I just wanted to let you guys know, sorry for not much uploads in the past few months, or really any activity. The device I edit on and create videos with sort of broke, and so I've been trying to save up and get a new device to get back to making videos and such. But while I'm still working towards that, I wanted to create this video for you guys because in the future I want this to be a tradition on this channel for however long it lasts, that every year I want to have a best of the year list. And maybe in a year when I'm not struggling to find a editing device to work on, I'll have other lists like worst of, surprises, stuff like that, and it'll be fun. And before we start, please like and subscribe. That'd be helpful, and I'd like that very much. That'd be a nice late Christmas gift and New Year's gift. Are there New Year's gifts? No, but you can give them to me, please. Do I deserve it? Of course. But yeah, please like and subscribe, and without further ado, let's get this tradition started. And before we start the actual list, I just wanted to mention a movie that's honorable. One might say honorable to mention. That is Avatar 2, The Way of Water. This is the latest movie I've seen and I think just barely misses the list. Of course, maybe if I saw it another time, it might bump up onto the list, but as of for now, it's not, but it has to be mentioned. As someone who hasn't watched the original all the way through with just seeing little bits and pieces on TV and at people's places, this movie blows the first one out of the water. Pun. And is honestly one of the biggest surprises of the year for me. It's one of the best looking movies probably ever, and James Cameron really got to make his let's get wet magnum opus, because you know he likes his water. But seriously, it's technically impressive. Like, you can't tell what's CGI and what's real. That line is like perfectly balanced, and it's crazy how detailed the CGI is now with James Cameron's innovations and stuff, and it's crazy. It's like the characters are well written and well rounded, and while the story is pretty straightforward, it's really well done and really captures the spectacle. Like, this is the biggest spectacle of the year and just barely misses the list. Definitely recommend you guys, if you're interested, to go out and see it in theaters, because this is obviously like a movie theater movie. Like, I honestly want to go back and see it in 3D and in IMAX to see how crazy these visuals get. Now that we got that honorable mention out of the way, I just wanted to throw out some movies that I didn't see this year or haven't gotten around to, some including Glass Onion and The Norseman. Also X and Pearl, which are sequels to each other, and they have like 2/3 of a trilogy out this year. Like, that's crazy, and there's going to be a third one coming out this next year called Maxine. The Predator movie Prey, The Banshees of Inisherin, and a crazy movie called RRR, which is on Netflix. Now on to the list of movies you came for.
Ow! Jump scare!
Get out of my house.
Scream 5, Scream 22, whatever you want to call it, is such a fun whodunit slasher comedy that so happens to be the first review I did on this channel. And like I said, this series is so good at balancing the thrills and the laughs, where it's like such a good balance of both and it never jeopardizes one for the other. And with its perfect meta humor and clever writing, it always feels like a celebration of horror whenever a new Scream comes out, because you get to see how they play with the newer horror tropes that are in the horror genre. And this movie in particular feels like almost a horror fan trying to outsmart another horror fan with their motives and how they're going to accomplish different slashing kills and horror tropes, because that's basically what this movie ends up being. And then it's comparing and contrasting the newer subgenre of horror called elevated horror and kind of contrast this with the classic slasher, and that's what the whole mood of the movie ends up being. Some of the new and a little bit of the old, and I mean, they really utilize the legacy characters well in this movie, and it just has a stacked cast in general. Like, they all give their subtle reasons as to why they could be the killer, and that's always well done in these movies. And the setups and executions are really well done. Even if I was able to figure out who the killers were from the beginning, it's more about what are the motives and like how did we get to this point sort of deal. So yeah, overall this was a great return from a classic franchise, and I can't wait to see what they do with the sequel coming out later this year in March. It looks really promising, and I can't wait to see what happens with this new cast of characters.
Ryan started the fire!
I can't believe I started the fire.
Vengeance is the first film to be written and directed by BJ Novak, which most of you will probably recognize as Ryan from The Office. It is a dark comedy mystery thriller that follows a true crime podcaster who's trying to milk the supposed murder of an ex he barely remembers, but her family obviously believes there's a more serious relationship there. And if this isn't the most Texas movie you've ever seen, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, bless your heart, honestly. I mean, they have Whataburger, man. Whataburger. It's right there. No, seriously, the movie has a lot of fun with the Texas culture and equally pokes fun at the Texans as well as the out-of-town city slicker played by BJ Novak. Both sides are equally laughed at and equally correct in certain instances. Like at certain points you could almost think it is a love letter to Texas itself, while also commentating on the true crime podcast scene and reporting that is exploitative and also more focused on entertainment than actually solving crimes and helping people. And a dash of cynicism of the modern age. I found BJ Novak to be great as the lead and has equally his good and bad moments, along with the whole Texan family. Boyd Holbrook standing out as the main, buddy to him throughout the movie. And also a phenomenal performance from Ashton Kutcher. I did not expect that going in, but he's incredible in this movie. Again, this movie is equally parts drama and comedy, with the first half being more comedic, and there's still black comedy moments later in the film, but it gets pretty serious. The drama is real, and it's really well done. And I think it touches on some pretty thought-provoking topics, so yeah, give this one a try. It was hard to see when it first came out, because I thought it was going to show up to most theaters, but apparently it was only select theaters. So me and a group of buddies ended up seeing it, but it's apparently on Peacock and several places to rent, so I'd give it a shot if you're interested. You won't be disappointed.
So basically, Santa beats up a bunch of goons on Christmas.
Stop right there, Amin. Wow, who would have thought we'd get a classic Christmas movie this year about Santa beating up a bunch of people to a pulp? That was definitely not on my 2022 bingo card. But Violent Night is just that. I mean, David Harbour beating up a bunch of thugs with the powers of Santa. And they are so creative with all the action that happens in this movie. This was one of the best audience experiences I've had this whole year. Everyone was laughing along to the funny moments, and then everyone going, ooh, whenever a big kill happened. Oh my gosh, this movie's crazy. And somehow they found the time to actually tell a good Christmas story. There's actually a heartwarming atmosphere hidden in this movie, and there's actual magic of Christmas that can be felt throughout it, and it's honestly and surprisingly an actual Christmas classic. That borderline threw me off. David Harbour is perfect as Santa and is somehow simultaneously the biggest grouch and protective teddy bear. And the way they dive into the Santa lore is pretty interesting and is basically begging for a sequel or a prequel. I wouldn't be surprised if we see another movie like this in the future. It's the perfect blend of a cheesy 90s action movie with the atmosphere of a distinguished Christmas movie. I can see myself watching this for Christmases to come. So what should we put in this movie?
Everything. Sorry, what was that? Everything.
Everything Everywhere All at Once may be a long title, but it is one of the most creative movies in I don't know when. It's a multiverse movie that has nothing to do with any superhero franchise, yet it is used in fresh and creative ways to tell the story and explore its main character. And how the multiverse element works and functions in this movie is so fun and creative. It leaves you on your toes and you're wondering what wacky, crazy thing's gonna happen next. And I mean, this movie's crazy. If you think you've seen a crazy movie before, no, this is crazy. Yet so much fun and thought-provoking. And you can see so much love and passion is thrown into this movie. I mean, I've seen a video floating around about how there's a 5-person team making blockbuster level effects in this movie whose budget doesn't even exceed 15 million. And they're able to produce some of the most creative and beautiful and cosmic looking visuals you'll ever see. And I mean, the editing is so stylized and is honestly the star of the show at certain points, with how it creatively jumps between universes and different versions of the main character. And Michelle Yeoh's performance in general is just so good, playing all these different versions of herself from different timelines and how things could have played out. Everybody does an incredible job, including the guy that played Short Round from Temple of Doom. But yeah, there's a real heart to this movie and should be viewed for its stylistic visuals and crazy action alone. And you'll never forget comedy bits like Raccacoonie or the hot dog fingers. Like, those visuals will stick with you for a bit. But while it has its raunchy moments, it is just so creative, so full of passion and heart. It's worth seeing 1,000 times, honestly. I want to see it again. And kind of am surprised I have not yet. I just might do that when I'm done with this video. I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully the multiverse doesn't collapse this time. Oh, come on, not again. Let me just try the switch right here.
I'm gonna steal the Declaration of Independence.
Dude, this is a Wendy's restaurant.
Yeah, this is the ultimate Nick Cage movie. The Avengers of Nick Cage references, in the movie where Nick Cage has never caged so much. And now there's plenty of Nick Cage to go around, but I did not expect this to be a phenomenal buddy comedy movie with Nick Cage, but also Pedro Pascal, who also blows his role out of the water. And I didn't expect how wacky the plot would get. Like, it gets to meta levels of celebrating movies in a way, or at the very least, the process of making a movie. It is one of the funniest movies of the year, thanks in part to Nicolas Cage's commitment to being Nick Cage. And the dynamic him and Pedro Pascal share on screen is just so fun. Their chemistry just pops off the screen. And there's a lot of fun, suspenseful moments throughout as Nick Cage plays himself trying to act almost like a secret agent for the CIA. And with so many memorable moments like Nick Cage talking to Nick Cage and Pedro Pascal sharing his love of Paddington 2, it becomes a great action buddy comedy with a good little helping of drama here and there, but nothing too crazy serious. But yeah, the script and the performances wowed me, and certain portions later in the movie are kind of mind-bending and pretty dang creative. So if you definitely like Nick Cage, this might be the Nick Cage movie to end all Nick Cage movies. Except, can we please get a National Treasure 3? Please, Disney. Not a lackluster show with no Cage. We need the man back. We need him.
Supper's ready. Come on, y'all. Been slaving over this for hours.
The Menu is such a original movie. It's a very strange, unique blend of comedy with, art house, yet also a pinch of horror or thriller. And it's able to mix all these elements together in this very potent combination where you'll be feeling a lot of different emotions by the end. It is headlined by excellent performances from Ralph Fiennes and Anya Taylor-Joy, along with Nicholas Hoult, who's very good at being insufferable and fills that role very well. There's also all these beautiful shots of food with the best food cinematography I've seen in a movie, all playing into this satirical reflection of art, almost, not to sound pretentious or anything. But basically the themes this movie covers can be applied to all sorts of avenues of life, whether it's just art in general or the prime example of the culinary scene. The themes are so dynamic and inspiring. And the movie has such a strange yet cathartic ending that just cements it as the most original movie I've seen all year. Again, there are so many laugh-out-loud moments, incredibly suspenseful scenes, and a thought-provoking story, and it might honestly objectively be the best movie of the year.
Happy birthday to you.
You told him it was my birthday?
Seemed funny about 3 hours ago.
Yes! The plane landed! Alright, can we all agree that Top Gun Maverick is the most unexpected runaway hit of the year? Like, I mean, 2 whole Sonic the Hedgehog movies came out in between the first trailer and the movie coming out. But it totally deserves it and is a fantastic blockbuster. Like, it's a crowd-pleasing movie that doesn't feel shallow. It's full of respect for the original, as well as a loving character study of the Maverick character with the most vulnerable Tom Cruise performance I've ever seen. Miles Teller also being a real standout. I had barely any experience with the original before going into this movie. I mean, me and my friend were going to go see this movie, and he found out I didn't see the original. So we went back and watched the original and ended up seeing this movie the following week. And even coming fresh off the first movie, I felt like this movie was so good at balancing that line of showing nostalgic things for nostalgic's sake and reframing it in new context, and they just dialed it just right because I could recognize certain plot beats and moments are like directly from the original, but with that new context and the emotion and power put into the story, it somehow doesn't feel like pandering. Like, it balances it amazingly well. I'm not quite sure if any other legacy or long-awaited sequel has been able to do this well. Completely paying homage while still feeling new. And the fact that they pretty much got to do all the action sequences in the planes practically and in real time is just crazy commitment and shows how far practical effects can go, because this is probably the most immersive dogfighting put into film. And the movie is a good reminder that non-superhero blockbuster movies can exist and can thrive. This movie making over $1 billion with not a single cape in sight.
Ow! Jump scare.
What did I tell you? Never sneak up on someone in a horror movie! Barbarian has one of the best trailers just because it doesn't give anything away and you don't know what the heck is going on. And that basically encapsulates what the movie ends up being. You'll never be able to guess from how the movie starts where the movie will end up. There are so many twists and turns thanks in a large part to this creative script from Zach Cregger, as well as his directing style. It is just a rejuvenating and fun horror flick. It mixes a great amount of elements of B-level movie horror and the more pristine, elevated horror take on themes and storytelling. And this cast reeks of top-notch talent, with its main leads being polar opposite character types. That could throw some people off with how egregious one of them gets, but it almost balances out with how clever and smart thinking the other is. It's also filled with some of the most suspenseful tension of the year as you see these chilling, long, slow shots just seep into your skin with tension, while also still being a pretty funny movie at points, making this such a well-rounded movie. It is one of the most clever horror films I've ever seen, with a super smart protagonist, super realistic human characters, yet a very twisted plot that becomes more horrifying the more it unfolds. And after all that, the movie still knows how to be cheeky and make it a fun time. So definitely check this movie out, you will be surprised. For sure.
Something in the way. Yeah.
Okay, so after first seeing this movie, I came out of it thinking, yeah, it's incredible. Yeah, it's probably going to end up on my top 3 or top 5 of the year. But halfway through the year, closer to the end of the year, when I started keeping track of the list, I realized there's so many good movies that are coming out, and I don't know, this might just make it halfway in the list. But as I finalized this list and started working on this video, I couldn't get over the depth and atmosphere this Gotham brings, and the focus on its protector, who is probably the most Batman-feeling Batman we've gotten so far. And all the new ways classic villains show up, all wrapped up in this dark, gritty, noir atmosphere that feels a lot like Seven or a Zodiac Killer, where there's almost a horror element to the city, the Riddler, and even the Batman. As Batman actually goes through an arc in this movie, turning from vigilante to be feared to hero who needs to rise above. And while the Bruce Wayne persona is pretty absent from this movie, I believe that's one of the points of the story, to get to that Bruce Wayne that everybody knows as the billionaire playboy. And once we see this version of Bruce Wayne play out, there's great potential that Robert Pattinson's going to be the greatest Batman of all time. He embodies this dark, mysterious figure so well as displaying that isolated, almost psychotic element of a still grieving young Batman. And all the other actors and characters do a great job too, with Zoe Kravitz being an amazing proto-Catwoman, an unrecognizable Colin Farrell as a quite hilarious version of Cobblepot, aka the Penguin, and a very unnerving performance by Paul Dano as the Riddler. This movie just has it all and is honestly the most different feeling superhero movie we've gotten in years, going all in on the noir subgenre it's going for, making it easily the best superhero movie of the year. And now, my number one movie of 2022.
Yep.
You had one job.
Just the one.
Okay, to be completely honest, I came out of this movie a tinge disappointed the first time I saw it. I was even thinking it was the weakest of the 3 Jordan Peele movies we've gotten so far. But then that night, it just stuck with me. And wow, how did I grow to appreciate and even love this film. The first time you watch it, you might be like me and wondering why the heck is a certain set of scenes even in this movie. It feels like it has nothing to do with the movie. But then it comes around, and after thinking about it for a bit, I realized how significant they were to not just the character involved with these scenes, but the overall thematic storytelling going on in this movie. And I started to love the concept of the true villain of the movie being that of spectacle. And the movie ends up being how each of these characters react and interact with that obsession. And this movie slowly started to rise up to being a masterpiece for me. I mean, just on a visual and suspense level, this movie is incredible with some of the most beautiful nighttime shots I've ever seen, amazing atmospheric cinematography, and a slight twist that I think is so creative and cool that they do with the flying object they're dealing with this whole movie. The suspense and the quote-unquote horror of the movie ends up being more like a Steven Spielberg thriller, but that doesn't stop it from having some of the most suspenseful scenes of the year, including a certain scene that I found absolutely horrifying, and I do not get shocked and horrified during movies that often, but that one will stick with me for quite a long time. It's just incredible, and the atmosphere is so potent and so eerie and foreboding. This feels like the closest movie to a Signs that we've had since that movie came out. It just nails that suspenseful, creeping feeling throughout the film. And I can't forget the cast that helps make it fun and emotional, with all of them doing almost perfect performances. Keke Palmer is so much fun, and Daniel Kaluuya being the keep to myself type, and Brandon Perea as Angel the tech guy. He should just be commended because he auditioned and Jordan Peele wrote a whole different part for the movie and changed the script just to get this guy in there. So that's something to be proud of. But yeah, I believe this movie is rewarding to rewatch as you see how different little pieces fit into the thematic puzzle being presented throughout the movie. And this is Jordan Peele's Steven Spielberg sci-fi thriller with some comedy elements and honestly an ode to Western movies. It's kind of a Western too. It doesn't fit in just a single genre. And all of these elements come together to form what now I deem as a masterpiece. And surprisingly, my number one movie of the year.
5 stars, Angel, 5 stars.
And with that, the year 2022 has come to an end. What a great year for movies, being full of surprises and disappointments. But you were pretty cool, 2022. Except you brought me one thing. This! This is the first movie I've been actively angry at. And for that, I can never forgive you. And for that, you will be deemed what I think this movie is. This isn't big enough, but I'll abbreviate. P.O.T., or as I like to call it, a piece of trash. You had a good run. Let's go, 23.